Jai Namo Namaha. Vrinai Hai Tulsidevyai Priyai Hai Keshavashacha Vishnu Mati Pradedevi Sachavachai Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jai. Okay. Class. Not many people coming. I guess it's time for me to travel.
Everyone's tired of waking up so early.
They're tired. All they want from me is to dump their karma off.
You'll be getting plenty of that today.
That's all they want. Okay. Last class. Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Tata Sitashi Shima, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti, Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Paren Se Kaho Sri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda, Radhagunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Mathuranam Ki Jai, Jagadath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samvita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravati Pachani, Nivashesha Shunyavati, Paschatya Deja Tarane, Om Gana Timadanda Shah, Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Maha. So we are reading from the 5th chapter of the Antya Lila, the final pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in this particular chapter, we're discussing about Pradyumna Mishra's meeting with Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was teaching all the dancing girls how to dance and dressing them and everything like that. And Pradyumna Mishra got a little confused when he first heard about that, but then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing him that Ramananda Roy is a special person who can he's the only person who can do that because he's Vishaka. So let's continue. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we are continuing with text 52, chapter 5 of the Antya Lila. Amya Rayarastane Shuni Krishna Kata Shunite Jahaya Yadi Punaya Tata. And this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Pradyumna Mishra. I also hear topics about Krishna from Ramananda Roy. If you want to hear such topics, go to him again. Of course, the first time Pradyumna Mishra was delayed because Ramananda Roy was teaching the dancing girls. And the second time, it won't happen like that. Mora mama lahiha, teho pataila more, tomara stane Krishna kata, shunivara tare. You can mention my name before him, saying he has sent me to hear about Lord Krishna from you. Shigura yaha yavateno achine sabhate eta shuni Pradyumna Mishra chalila chudite. Go hastily while he is in the assembly room. Hearing this, Pradyumna Mishra immediately departed, that is, for Ramananda Roy's place. Raya pashagela raya pranati karhila ogna kara ye lagi agamana haila. Pradyumna Mishra went to Ramananda Roy, who offered him respectful obeisances and said, "Please order me. For what purpose have you come?" Such Vaishnava etiquette. Mishra kahe Mahaprabhu pathaila more tomara stane Krishna kata shunipare tare. Pradyumna Mishra answered, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has sent me to hear topics about Lord Krishna from you. Oh, you're all right? Shuni Ramananda Rai, Haila Prema Veshe, Kahite Lagila Kichu Manera Harishe. Hearing this, Ramananda Roy became absorbed in ecstatic love and began to speak with great transcendental pleasure. So even being asked about Krishna's pastimes is enough to stimulate one's love of God. That's called a vibhava. Anything that stimulates your love of God, like a peacock feather. If you see a peacock feather, if you're a devotee, you'll just start rolling on the ground in ecstasy. Do you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just in shock when I see people like this at pre.
All right. Great devotee there. So, but that's great devotees, like this devotee Mukunda. One time he was advising the Nawab on some medical affairs, and the Nawab was seated on a very high platform, and he was talking to the Nawab about medical things because he was a doctor. And then someone started to fan the Nawab with a peacock feather, and he actually fell down from the high platform, just rolled on the ground. And the Nawab came down and said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "I have epilepsy." But the Nawab understood this is a symptom of pure love of God. So that's how you know you're advanced, when you actually have those symptoms. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Prabhura Gyaya Krishna Kata Shunitaya Lakita Taivai Mahabhagya Amipava Kota. Following the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have come to hear about Krishna. This is my great fortune. How else would I get such an opportunity? So etakahi tarilana nibate vasila kikata shunite chaha misrere puchila. Saying this, Sri Ramananda Roy took Pradyumna Mishra to a secluded place and inquired from him, "What kind of Krishna Katha would you like to hear from me?" Tain ho kahe ye kahila vidya nagare se katha krame to me kahiva amare. Pradyumna Mishra replied, "Kindly tell me about the same topics you spoke about at Vijayanagara." So Vijayanagara Vijayanagara was the place where Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy met, and they discussed all the different levels of devotional service, what's called a hierarchy. You know what hierarchy is? That means first they started with Varnashram, and then the rejected Varnashram, and then he went all the way up to Krishna's love and Radharani's love for Krishna. So that was discussed at Vijayanagara, before Ramananda Roy went to Jagannath Puri to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anera ki katha tumi prabhura upadeshta amita bhikshuka vipra tumi mora posta. You are an instructor even for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what to speak of others. I am but a beggar Brahmin, and you are my maintainer. It's very important humility there. Malamanda kichuami puchite na jani dina deki kripakari kahiba apanhi. I do not know how to inquire, for I do not know what is good and what is bad. Seeing me to be poor in knowledge, kindly speak whatever is good for me by your own goodwill. Tabi Ratmananda Krame Kahite Lagila Krishna Katara Samrita Sindhu Uthalila. Thereupon Ramananda Roy gradually began speaking on topics of Krishna. Thus the ocean of the transcendental mellows of these topics became agitated. Apane prashna kare pache karena siddhanta tritiya prahara haila nahi kata anta. He personally began posing questions and then answering them with conclusive statements. When afternoon came, the topic still did not end. Vakta Shruta Kahi Shune Nune Pema Veshe Atma Smriti Nahi Kahan Jani Dina De She. The speaker and listens the speaker and listener spoke and heard in ecstatic love. Thus they forgot their bodily consciousness. How then could they perceive the end of the day? Sevaka Kaila Dina Haila Avasana Taviraya Krishna Katara Karila Vishrama. The servant informed them the day is already ended. Then Ramananda Roy ended his discourses about Krishna. Bahu Samana Karimishre Vidaya Dila Kritartaha Ilana Pali Mishra Nachite Lagila. Ramananda Roy paid great respect to Prajuna Mishra and bade him farewell. Prajuna Mishra said, I become very satisfied. He then began to dance. Gare Gaya Mishra Kaila Snana Bhojana Sanjakale Dekite Aila Prabhura Charana. After returning home, Prajuna Mishra bathed and ate his meal. In the evening, he came to see the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhura Charanavante Ulasitamane Prabhu Kahi Krishna Kata Hahila Shravane. In great happiness, he worshipped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord inquired, have you heard topics about Krishna? Mishrakai Prabhu More Kritarta Karila Krishna Caitramrta Nave More Duvaila. Prajuna Mishra said, my dear Lord, you have made me extremely obliged to you because you have drowned me in a nectarian ocean of talks about Krishna. Ramananda Raya Kata Kahi Lena Kaya Manusha Nahi Raya Krishna Bhakti Rasa Maya. I cannot properly describe the discourses of Ramananda Roy, for he is not an ordinary human being. He is fully absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord. Purport. One is forbidden to accept the guru or spiritual master as an ordinary human being. Gurushu Naramati. That means one has hellish Naramati, hellish intelligence. As an ordinary person, one has intelligence, hellish intelligence. When Ramananda Roy spoke to Prajuna Mishra could understand that Ramananda Roy was not an ordinary human being. A spiritually advanced person who is authorized to act as the spiritual master speaks as the Supreme Personality of Godhead dictates from within. Thus, it is not that he is personally speaking. In other words, when a pure devotee or spiritual master speaks, what he says should be accepted as having been directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Parampara system. So I want to unpack that because it's important. So sometimes the spiritual master is speaking on the absolute platform and sometimes he's speaking on the relative platform. So what do I mean by that? When the spiritual master is speaking Krishna Kata, which is the Siddhanta, then that's the absolute platform. You know, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're spirit souls. We're part and parcel of Krishna. We're undergoing reincarnation. There's demons. There's devotees. You know, all that stuff is Siddhanta. But when the spiritual master is speaking relatively, just like I may go out in the park and say, that's a beautiful bird. Hear the chirping? I can hear. Because I wear earplugs during kirtan. I have good ears. So, so if I go out and say that crow is the most beautiful crow I've ever seen in my life. That is not an absolute statement. It's not that you say, Gurudev says crows are actually the most beautiful bird. It must be absolute, right?
That's an opinion.
That's an opinion. That's my opinion. So that's not absolute. That's not coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I can't claim that.
Some people might think crows are ugly.
Yeah, some people, and they're in Maya because they're not agreeing with the Guru, right? So, you know, Prabhupada definitely had personal opinions. There's an interesting story when Prabhupada first started the movement, he was talking to Brahmananda, one of the first devotees, and Brahmananda was saying, yeah, actually, I have some connection with India too. He said, I have an Indian girlfriend. And Prabhupada said, yes, really? And Brahmananda said, yes, really. And Prabhupada said, show me your picture. So, it's a funny story. And then Ramananda showed Prabhupada the picture. And Prabhupada said, she's not so attractive. He said, Indian girls look better than that. So, I mean, is that an absolute statement or a relative statement? It's a relative statement. You know, everybody has certain tastes. Like I may like quinoa. And you may like, what do you like?
Rice. Kheer.
Yes,
I like broccoli, and you don't like broccoli, right?
I like broccoli.
That's good. So if I take a stick of broccoli and wave it in front of Keshav, he'll be PTSD, you know, he suffers from. So, right?
I mean, I'll eat it. I have to.
You'll eat it, but it's just not gladly.
Nah.
You have to be forced to eat it. So there's different tastes. And these things are all relative. It's not a spiritual disqualification because you don't like broccoli and I like broccoli. It's not a spiritual disqualification because I like crows and you like swans. Anyway. And like Prabhupada, okay, chuparo. He knows what that means.
Yeah.
So anyway, just like Prabhupada said something one time, that potatoes are the king of all vegetables. Now, if I don't agree with that, am I like a blasphemer or committing guru aparadha? No. It's just relative. So we have to really understand what to accept when the spiritual master is speaking from the absolute platform and when he's not speaking from the absolute platform. You know, it's not, or what the spiritual master's perfection is. Like if the spiritual master he's driving a car and he takes the wrong turn or something like that, doesn't mean, he's not bona fide. Because if Krishna actually was directing the guru, then he wouldn't need the GPS. Some devotees would say, Krishna's my GPS. But that's not so intelligent. Better you just use the GPS too. Or Krishna changes the oil in my car. Or Krishna supplies petrol. Then you run out of petrol. So, anyway, one has to be intelligent in applying the example and instructions of the spiritual master. That's the point here. One shouldn't take these things out of context. Okay, next text. Areka kataraya kahila amare Krishna kata voktakari najaniha more. There's one thing Ramananda Roy said to me. Do not consider me the speaker in these talks about Krishna. Mora muke kata kehena apane gora chandra yache kahaya taiche nikahi yena vina yantra. Whatever I speak is personally spoken by Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Like a stringed instrument, I vibrate whatever he causes me to speak. Mora muke kataya kata kare parachara prativite ke kajanibe e Lila tanhara. In this way, the Lord speaks through my mouth to preach the cult of Krishna consciousness within the world. Who will understand this pastime of the Lord's? Ye sava shuni lun Krishna rasera sagara Brahmadi devera he saba nahaya haya gochara. What I've heard from Ramananda Roy is like a nectarian ocean of discourses about Krishna. Even the demigods, beginning with Lord Brahma, cannot understand all these topics. Heno rasapana more karaila tumi janme janme tomara paya vikailana kami. My dear Lord, you have made me drink the transcendental nectar of Krishna Katha. Therefore I am sold to your lotus feet life after life. Wow. Prabhukai Ramananda Vinayera Kane apanara kata paramunde dena ani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Ramananda Roy is a man of great humility. Therefore, he has attributed his own words to another's intelligence. Mahanubhavera he sahaja swabhavahaya apanara gunanhahi apanekahaya. This is the natural characteristic of those advanced in devotional service. They do not personally speak of their own good qualities. Ramananda Raye Rahe Kahi Lu Guna Lesha Prajuna Misrere Yaiche Kaila Upadesha. I have described but a fraction of the transcendental attributes of Ramananda Roy as revealed when he instructed Prajuna Mishra. Rahastahana Nahi Rai Sadvagera Vashe Vishayhana Sanyasire Upadeshe. Although Ramananda Roy was a householder, he was not under the control of the 6 kinds of bodily changes. Although apparently a pounds and shillings man, he advised even persons in the renounced order. So in other words, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu states, Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyashi Shuddha Kenanai Ye Krishna Tadvaveta Se Guru Hai. It doesn't matter if one is a learned person, Kiva Vipra Kiva, a sannyasi, a shudra. If one knows the science of Krishna, then he can be considered guru. He or she. That means it doesn't really matter what the body is. Of course, sometimes, as I mentioned before in a joking way, sometimes in ISKCON, we apply that to men, but not to women. We say that men are not their bodies, but women are their bodies. You know, it's just crazy consciousness. So everybody who's a devotee, when they become devotees, it doesn't matter, even if they're aborigines before. Even if I'm sure in the future we'll have some aborigine gurus in our movement. Why not? Why not? It's not that everybody has to be Anglo-Saxon. We call that wasp. You know what a wasp is?
No.
No. In America it's a wasp. White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. But actually the people in North India are Anglo-Saxons too. Basically it's the same. In South India it's different. So racially, North India and Europeans are actually the same, except for the difference in color. But it's basically, racially, it's the same. But South India, it's different. Anyway, it doesn't matter what sort of machine one has. The body is simply a machine. If you have a lady machine or a man machine or a child machine, as long as it's a human machine. Unless you're like the Lord who has a horse head, the Hayagriva incarnation we were talking about. Then you don't need a human machine. He's not a machine, it's a transcendental body, as Krishna says in the Gita. Krishna comes down and he performs his pastimes in the same transcendental body. So the Hayagriva incarnation is Krishna, same transcendental body. It's not that Krishna takes a body. All right, let's see how much time. Okay, a few more minutes. We read that. Purport. Ramananda Roy externally appeared to be a grahasta who was under the influence of the external material energy, not a self-controlled brahmachari, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. That reminds me of a funny story. Once upon a time, there was one sannyasi who was complaining to Prabhupada. He was talking about that story of the Shakshi Gopal story, where you had the older Brahmin and the younger Brahmin. They went to Vrindavan together, and the younger Brahmin was serving the older Brahmin, and the younger Brahmin pleased the older Brahmin so much that the older Brahmin promised that the younger Brahmin could marry his daughter.
Yep.
And so when the older Brahmin got back, his family objected, and they created a lot of problems, and finally, to make a long story short, the younger Brahmin had to bring this Shakshi Gopal all the way across India. He didn't bring him, he walked by himself all the way across India. to witness the older Brahman's promises. So, Prabhupada comments that the younger Brahman and the older Brahman, were both pure devotees. And then one sannyasi, being very agitated, said to Prabhupada, but if he was a pure devotee, why did he go to all that trouble to get married? To have the marriage, why did he get married? And Prabhupada said to the sannyasi, he said, because no one would have you're speaking this way. In other words, you're too ugly or something like that. So you're just envious. That's what Prabhupada was saying. But he was joking, of course. So Grahastha's householders are under the influence of the external energy, except household life for the purpose of sense gratification, but a transcendently situated Vaishnava is not subjected to the influence of the senses by the Lord's material rule of the 6 kinds of bodily changes. What are the 6 changes? Kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, anchoring, moha, illusion, mada means complete illusion or madness, and matsarya means envy. Even when he plays the part of the grahastha, thus although Srila Ramananda Roy acted as a grahastha and was accepted as an ordinary pounds and shillings man, he was always absorbed in the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore his mind was spiritually situated, and he was interested only in the subject of Krishna. Ramananda Roy was not among the Mayavadi personalists or materialistic logicians who were opposed to the principles of Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. He was already spiritually situated in the order of renounced life. That means even though he was grahastha, he was a renunciate. Therefore, he was able to turn sand into gold by spiritual potency, or in other words, to elevate a person from a material to a spiritual position. So we'll do one more verse. E sabaguna tanra prakashakarite mishreyare pataila tan shavanakarite. To demonstrate the transcendental attributes of Ramananda Roy, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu sent Prajuna Mishra to hear discourses about Krishna from him. And so we're going to end our reading, and then we'll take questions after we... Excuse me. Blessing. Why don't you give me your blessings? You want to bless me? That's funny. God bless you, Gurudev. Thank you for your blessings. So anyway, that's kind of funny. Okay, so let me unmute everybody here, and then we can take questions from the audience here. Anybody have questions? Oh, what?
Sorry, Vicky.
You have questions?
Well, I guess I was listening to the class as well,
And the car.
in the car.
Yeah, I figured that because I saw your...
Yes. So with Pradyumna Mishra, and I understand that why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to speak with Ramananda Rai, but what was the is there an esoteric reason as well there? Like, is it to really understand the constitutional position of Ramananda Rai, or is it just to alleviate Pradyumna Mishra's illusions about?
Well, to relieve Prajna Mishra's illusion that, Grahastha was less enhanced than a sannyasi. So, because Ramananda Roy was speaking the most highly elevated philosophy. Basically, that was the reason. Teach him humility. And Ramananda, and also to teach him, because Ramananda Roy was doing all these things with the dancing girls, to teach him that you cannot understand the mind and intelligence of a pure devotee. Because first he was actually thinking, this is Maya. And Ramananda Roy is, teaching the girls how to dance and dressing them and everything like that. So this is what's going on here. But, to not project his materialistic understanding upon the activities or consciousness of Vaishnava. All right?
Maharaj,
Yeah.
so we also see the example of Pundit Vidyanidhi and Kala Pandit.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's difficult for like an ordinary person to see these pastimes. I mean, sometimes it's very hard to understand. I mean, like when you see these examples.
Yeah.
I mean, for a
Well,
someone, a
it-
beginner or something, when someone reads all these things, it's just mind-boggling.
Well, it's teaching you not to judge a Vaishnava by the externals. Actually, Prabhupada said you can judge a Vaishnava more by what they say than how they look. Of course, we're interested in examples too. I mean, obviously, Ramananda Roy's example is not for us.
Or even
But
he was so rich.
Well, maybe that example's for us. I don't, there's no, we have so many well-to-do Vaishnavas, isn't it? I don't think that's a problem. Because that's, he's rich, but he was using whatever money he had in Krishna's service. And he accepted his opulence because everybody has a different need or different needs for things in this world. I mean, someone could drive a Toyota and someone could drive a better car too. Poor or buy, I mean, come on. Someone criticizes me for my car, for example. Let's say he's a sannyasi. What is he doing driving around? Car. Actually, my car costs less than your car. So I mean, just to tell you.
In US, you.
Yeah. So people have this conception that it's very expensive, but it wasn't.
You can't have a Mercedes and go around asking for a temple. You can't have a Mercedes going around asking for money. So it means you're filthy rich anyway.
Well, I have a Tesla and I do that. I don't ask people for money anyway. I don't do that.
Yeah, but I mean, like a temple, for example. I mean, having a Mercedes, it's
Mercedes, that's not an expensive car.
over here.
Huh? Mercedes isn't expensive.
No, you got to use one.
Yes.
Yeah, true. Second-hand.
I mean, in America, you could pick up a nice Mercedes for $25,000.
Yeah, second-hand.
Second-hand, yeah.
Yeah, same. You'll get a second.
Same thing here. So, I mean, I picked up, mine was second-hand, my car. So anyway, the point is you can't judge a sannyasi or grahasta by what car they're driving like that. And that's what Pundarik was showing. Pundarik Vijayanidhi was showing. But Ramananda Roy was showing something different. that don't judge a devotee by the externals. Well, of course, I mean, obviously, if you saw a sannyasi or anyone doing what Ramananda Roy was doing, you'd have to doubt the person.
Yeah, not this day and age.
Yeah, not in this day and age. And first of all, Ramananda Roy was accepted as an eternal associate of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If Krishna came or Lord Chaitanya came and said, this is my eternal associate and what he's doing is proper, yes. But otherwise, I would have a lot of trouble accepting someone doing something like that. I would think they're in Maya. I'll tell you a funny example of that. Here's a real story. Once upon a time, I was on my way to Miami to become the temple president many years ago. And at the rest plazas, you know what rest plaza is? The rest plazas, in America we have these rest plazas. I haven't seen them here.
We have rest stops.
If you go longer distance then.
Longer distance. I haven't seen them within the city. I haven't seen any. So at the rest plaza, we had permission to collect money. Not me, but the devotees had permission to collect money. And they were, the way they were collecting money, some of you may have heard this story before, they had carnations, and they would pin the carnations on people. Carnations?
Yeah.
Carnation, flowers. And they would even pin the carnations on women. And so there were brahmacharis. I stopped in the rest plaza just to visit the brahmacharis to see what they were doing. The brahmacharis taking the flowers, and right here on a woman's shirt or blouse, whatever you call it, they were pinning it. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I said, what are they doing? A brahmachari pulling on a woman's blouse, it's... And I said, no, there's more to the story. I said to the brahmacharis, what are you doing? He said, this is how we collect money. In America we had all these... I mean, here too you have the bucket brigade and everything like that.
The legacies do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Americans taught you all how to do it. collect money. So this is in the early days. We don't do it anymore. Actually, in America, it's not done anymore. Here, I think you still have it going on. Yeah.
Finished.
No, I know one person who does it here.
Rupa. No, but he does the books.
No, there's someone else. I'm not going to mention his name. So we don't want to incriminate people. So anyway, all right. So then I said, "Aren't your minds disturbed?" And they said, "No, this is a transcendental activity. We've been told by our temple president this is transcendental, and our minds are not to be disturbed." You know, they were told that their minds were not disturbed. This is like the Emperor's New Clothes story. So they didn't want to admit to each other that their minds were disturbed.
So give to each other.
So finally, we get back to the temple, and a few days later, I get one of them to admit it. And he admits it. He says, "Yes, I'm dreaming about women all night long." Instead of counting sheep, he's counting ladies. So anyway, fall asleep, and I say, and then as soon as he admits it, it's like the floodgates open. Everyone said, "Yeah, me too, me too." And then at that point, I said, "You can't do this anymore. Why don't you just distribute Prabhupada's books?" And they said, how are you going to be able to maintain the temple distributing Prabhupada's books? You know, because the temple required so much money like that. And that's before, in America, we had the Indian congregation. So all the money, all the income was dependent upon the brahmacharis going out and getting money. So I just said, let's work out a system where we can distribute Prabhupada's books. And it was a very nice system because everybody had a certain amount of books they were supposed to distribute at cost, at the markup, markup. And then after that, they could distribute the books at the cost. So it was very encouraging to the devotees. I said, if you distribute 10 books with the normal markup, let's say it was the book cost us $2.50, and they distributed it for $5. Okay, you distribute 10 like that. But then after that, you can after you've done that quota, you can distribute the books at $2.50. So that really inspired the devotees. You understand what I'm talking about? To reach a quota. It wasn't simply, here's your quota, buddy. You got to do it. But I said, if you do it, in a very positive way rather than a forceful way, then you could just hand out the books like hotcakes. And they became very encouraged. And the temple had so much money at that point. We had some devotees distribute 300, 400 big books in a day. That's a lot. Of course, nowadays, I just read about one devotee who did 1,100 or 1,200 big books in a day. Big books, yeah, hardbound books in a day. But in those days, it was actually records. We were setting records when we did that. So the moral of the story is, yes, one has to be careful in these dealings. And one shouldn't deny that they're in Maya. One should be honest. And also in the name of making money, one cannot be ready to do everything. One should actually take care of one's spiritual life in the name of building temples, making money, accomplishing projects. One should not sacrifice people, or one should not sacrifice one's own spiritual life. Our whole point is to bring people to Krishna consciousness, more devotees, happier devotees. That's our motto. You should establish that as a motto for HKCCC. What branding,
We'll get the name sorted out first.
Yeah, it's not branding yet. I told them to hire a professional brand person. Is that something people are going to remember? You got to have something that's really snappy.
They're calling it Sydney West or
Yeah,
something.
West,
It's a new
East
thing
and
hanging
West.
on here.
Sydney West is not even something that's good branding.
Yeah.
No.
It has to be, something like RG, Radha Govinda.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Radha Govinda Prema, something like that.
Yeah.
Something.
Maybe they will come up.
Yeah, something that's really snappy and, attractive to people. HKCCC. Are you going to join HKCCC? Yes, you have a very good HKCCC here.
I couldn't pronounce the abbreviation at the beginning.
They
I was
usually
always
Yeah, we were doing this video with Krishna and Lila, and every two sentences was HK triple C, HK triple C. I thought I was on some ad for a TV show or something like that.
Maybe you're hating
This is HKCCC. Tune in.
It's Hare Krishna Community and Cultural Center.
Yeah.
Ah.
There you go.
Is there, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
I'll show you my brand right now.
Yes, yes.
That's so you can actually see. This is professional branding.
Oh wow.
We can do
BK, I mean, you've got a beautiful BKG.
Yeah, this is my logo,
Yes.
and a professional logo person did it.
Yeah, the chakra, the sun
Yeah.
is all together, isn't
It took a long time, and we had her working on it. She's a professional logo worker. I didn't have to pay her because she's the mother of one of my disciples. But you got to do something like that. You got to do something like that. Have a professional logo and professional, branding.
Branding's important.
Branding is so important nowadays. And branding should be very simple that people can remember it. Like if you look at the 3 arches for McDonald's. Okay, question?
I have a question. A few verses ago, during the meet and greet of Pradyumna Mishra and Ramananda Roy, Pradyumna Mishra said to Ramananda Roy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is you instructed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and you're my maintainer. So when he knows, if Pradyumna Mishra knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the maintainer, why did he say to Ramananda Roy that
There's things equal to the same thing or equal to each other.
And it's the first time because
You have to respect it, like the spiritual master. Like the spiritual master is speaking on behalf of Krishna. So Krishna is the maintainer, but he's representative of the maintainer or the ambassador for a country.
like the guru.
Yes. Yeah. The ambassador for the country is treated as if the country was there or the president was there. That's normal etiquette. All right. Any other questions? Online, do we have any questions?
I think in Ramayana we also see the example that when Garud was a bit bewildered after he saw Lakshman
Yeah.
Nagpar, so then he was sent to Karbhushandi to get understanding.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're unable to get it, so you get someone else to because you're so puffed up. So listening from Karbhushandi, which is the lowest of all the creatures, so he just makes you more humble. Is that the reason?
Yeah, that could be a good reason. Just humility. Very good. Very good. All right, Kana, any questions?
No. Maybe I'll think of one today.
Okay, think of one today. Okay, we have a big day today. A lot of karma. As if I had enough. Didn't have enough. We'll see everybody later. I guess that's it. All glory is to His divine glory. Srila Prabhupada.